In this video, we're going to look at the really fundamental concepts of sales, revenue, and costs of production, and including as well a couple of the real basic formulas that you might have to use to calculate some of these concepts. So when a business is looking at their sales figures, they might do this by looking at sales volume, or they might look at sales revenue, or the value of the sales, and it kind of depends on the business as to which of these two measures they might be more likely to use. So if you imagine if you had a business manufacturing and selling cars, it might make more sense for you to put your sales figures in terms of sales volume. The number of cars sold, thousands of cars, whatever it is, might be quite a clear figure for you to be able to show for your sales. Whereas for some businesses, this isn't going to make very much sense, and it's going to make a lot more sense for you to put your figures in terms of sales revenue, which is the value of all of that output sold. So for a supermarket, the volume of their sales is going to mean very little. I mean, what would you be talking about? Volume of fruit or cans of beans or whatever it is. So we'd work out the value of all of their sales, and we'd do that by calculating selling price times by the quantity sold, and this will give us our value for the total sales revenue for that business. And so where you've got sales or sales revenue on one side coming into your business, the other side, what's going out, is going to be your costs of production. And generally you can categorize your costs of production in one of two ways. So you're going to have your fixed costs. These are costs which don't vary directly with output. So it doesn't mean to say that they never change at all. So don't just say that fixed costs don't change. It's about the fact they don't vary directly with output. So these are going to be things like rent, heating, any utilities really, interest payments possibly on any loans, marketing, advertising costs, things like that. So you've got to think, would selling one more of your product directly impact on that cost? And with those examples, it's not going to have a direct impact by making and selling one more product on those costs. Whereas with variable costs, those are directly impacted by the level of output that's made. So those are things like raw materials would be your main variable cost. Could be wages if you're paying your staff piece rate. So if you're paying your staff per unit produced, that's probably going to be quite rare, but that could be a variable cost. But generally speaking, you're looking at your materials which are going into your product. So every one that you make, your variable cost is going to increase. So it's varying directly with the output that's produced. And then you bring those together to make your total costs. So fixed costs plus variable costs give you your total costs. So this is quite a good little exercise for categorizing your costs. If you imagine you're running a coffee shop and you've got your really just basic different kinds of costs at the bottom here. And so you've got to go through and first of all categorize them into whether they're fixed or variable costs, and then put them into the table in terms of what your costs are going to be at each of the different ranges of output shown on the table here. Okay, so this is what your completed table should look like. And to get there, the first thing you need to do is you need to sort these different costs we've got at the bottom into whether they're fixed costs or variable costs. So rent is a fixed cost, heating and lighting is a fixed cost, interest is a fixed cost, and then the ingredients and packaging is a variable cost. So if you add the three fixed costs that we've got here together, 3,000 plus 1,000 plus 1,000, gives us £5,000 for our total fixed costs. And you can see on the table that then can just be filled out on each one of the rows going all the way down, because it doesn't matter whether we don't sell any cups of coffee at all or whether we sell 10,000 cups of coffee, we've still got to pay our rent, we've still got to pay our bills, we've still got to pay our interest on those loans. So our fixed costs don't change, so they're going to be the same all the way down. The variable costs is just this cost of ingredients and packaging, so you've got £1.50 per cup, but with that we've got to multiply the £1.50 per cup by the number of units that we're making and selling. So when we're not selling any cups of coffee, our variable costs are going to be zero. But each time going down the rows here, 1,000 cups of coffee times the £1.50 gives us variable costs of £1,500 right the way down to 10,000 cups of coffee. Our variable costs are going to be £15,000. And then you can see the last row, last column really simply is just your fixed costs plus your variable costs to give you your total cost going down here.